This conference will now be recorded.
But,
We're going from the business level.
well, yeah. Make it easiest for that. You have the magnifying glass too, Patrick? I have glasses on and I still can't hardly read those numbers.
You have to get Jeff trouble.
Yeah. Bigger font, please.
Yeah, well, especially when you get to the spreadsheet.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I put my glasses on and still can't read.
All right. 7 o'clock. I welcome you all to the November 19th DeSoto City Council meeting. We'll start tonight with roll call, please.
Lane,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Hanamichael,
Here.
Murdoch,
Here,
Ritter.
Here.
Everyone's present, Mayor.
Okay. I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item tonight is a public hearing to discuss the proposed tax abatement of 75% and issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds or INRBT.
Yes, council, quickly, Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore Bell is online, and I think he was going to give just a brief introduction of the of a number of steps we're going to be taking this evening. So I'll invite him to take over and let us hear that background.
Yeah, thanks and good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell and the city's bond council. It's nice to see you in some fashion this evening. Good to be with you. I know this group of folks is pretty familiar with the process at this point, but we'll take a couple minutes and go over the application and the process and where we're at and where we're headed. So just to highlight the project, again, the applicant is INRBT, doing business as Merck. And their application received in October was for $31 million of industrial revenue bond financing. As you know, the industrial revenue bonds aren't a real financing mechanism and instead are an incentive tool for the purpose of granting property tax abatement here. And the request is for 75% property tax abatement on the project. And that $31 million is I skipped over, is for expansion at the existing site for new facilities and upgrades at their existing facility. Similar to past IRB transactions, this will be a buy your own bond structure, meaning the company will buy its own bond and the city won't have any liability for repayment. The bonds are instead repaid to the company / bondholder through a lease of the facility. And you might recall that stepping back to last year at this facility, this site is currently subject to a lease entered in 2019 for those improvements. And so the documents this year look a little bit different in that we're supplementing and amending those leases to provide for this year's bond issuance, which is pretty standard procedure for these types of phased improvements, but just wanted to highlight that. Again, no city liability for repayment of the bonds, and the company pays all costs of issuance. And unlike certain other incentive tools you might be familiar with, where there's veto power from other taxing jurisdictions like the county or school district, that doesn't exist for property tax abatement, IRB, and instead this incentive is granted at the discretion of this governing body. So quickly now to the state mandated process. Again, prior to the public hearing, there are 3 main requirements. Is that you provide notice to the county and school district, A publication occurs in the paper to notify the public of the public hearing. And lastly, that a cost benefit analysis has been performed. All three of those have been accomplished, and Jeff White from Columbia Capital, I know, is online here, who's the preparer of that cost benefit analysis. With those three things accomplished, you can move forward to the public hearing this evening. And after that's closed, consideration of the resolution and ordinance authorizing the project and issuance of the bonds. And if approved by the city council tonight, we proceed with the company towards closing in mid-December, and their abatement for this phase would begin in the 2021 tax year. With that, I'll step aside and happy to answer any questions or stand by for anything else.
Any questions for Kevin Wimpy? Okay, hearing none, then we'll go on with the.
Yeah, I think it might be appropriate if we want to hear from Jeff White about the
Right.
cost benefit analysis that's, I think, at your places, was delivered to you by email earlier this week. So Jeff, I know you're on the line. If you want to just go over, I will pull up your cost benefit analysis here on the screen. So if you want to take it from there.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Jeff White with Columbia Capital. It's our pleasure to serve as the city's financial advisor. As Kevin foreshadowed for you tonight, the cost benefit analysis before you is statutorily required for an IRB property tax abatement. We use the same methodology for those of you on the council who saw Merck's project last year. Same methodology and approach that we used that time. The memo highlights our approach. The summary page provides the details required by Kansas law. So again, an assumed 75% effective tax abatement, also an assumption that sales taxes would be exempted on construction goods and materials. Our calculations show that the city, the county, and USD 3232 should all expect to see net present value benefit from this project. And that's really due in large part to the fact that not all of the property taxes being created by this new facility or the expanded facility will be abated. So each of those taxing entities will get a share of the new property taxes created by this particular project. In the city's case, the city will also benefit from franchise fees and other residents and other revenues as well. A couple quick notes. Our property tax abatement cost benefit analysis looks at direct costs only. So this doesn't include spin-off jobs and those kinds of things, which you may see in other types of economic impact analysis. At the very bottom of the page, you'll see that there's a projected impact of the exemption on state revenues. That's also required to be calculated by law. So with that, Mr. Mayor, happy to try and answer any questions of the body.
Okay, any questions for Kevin White on the cost benefit analysis? Okay, hearing none, we will move on then to the next step, which would be to formally open the public hearing.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate to do that now.
Okay. I now open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak regarding this matter?
I don't see anybody online
Okay.
who would be here for this matter. The applicant, Intervet Merck, is here along with Rudy Beasy, who's their legal counsel, who's worked with us through the last 2 or 3 issues. We want to hear from them now, or we could hear from them at the agenda items later in the agenda.
I'll just wait till the agenda, then I'll close the public hearing and we'll move on. Public hearing is closed. So we will continue. First, item 1, consent agenda, approved minutes from the council meeting of November 5th, approved pay ordinance number 890, and approve a resolution 1037 confirming the appointment of Bob Garrett to the Northwest Consolidated Fire District Board. Any discussion of the consent agenda or motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hannah Michael,
Yeah, yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried, Mayor.
Okay. Item 2 is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matters. Anyone wish to address the council tonight under call to public? Again, no one's online to do that, I assume. So
That's correct.
we will dispense with that. Item 3 is old business. We have none, so we'll go to 4, new business. A, consider resolution number 1038 first. Why don't we, can we adjust before we do that, might as well take care of this business first since they're here in person.
Sure, we could amend the agenda.
Would someone make a motion to amend the agenda?
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda, moving items 4F and 4G, the front of the agenda.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we will go to item 4F, consider resolution 1039 related to issuance of 33 million in IRBs and 75% tax abatement for Intervet.
Mike, if I can just mention, I believe is that it should be 31 million on the agenda, and that probably was my script.
Oh, is the agenda?
Just on the agenda, I think all the
Yeah,
documents.
31 million is the issuance. Yeah, the agenda says 33, it's 31. Yeah. Again, County Mayor, at your pleasure, but we do have Kevin Wimpy here with Gilmore Bell. They're the ones primarily in charge of these documents that are in front of you tonight, authorizing these actions that are going to be taken tonight. So I'm sure Kevin could answer any questions you might want.
All right, so before we have it, does anyone have any questions beyond what Kevin presented earlier? Okay, hearing none, I don't know that we need to go through that again, so Rudy, do you or Ron have anything you'd like to address us about?
Ron Wilms probably is in the best position to answer any questions that you may have. We really appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you this evening to entertain yet again another industrial revenue bond series. We're excited to be here and glad to respond to any questions also that you may have. Also here in the audience is Pam Stoops, who's responsible for the site. And so I wanted to make sure we introduced Pam as well.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're glad you're here as well.
So thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for the folks from Intervet?
My only question is really on, we're doing bonds now that are projects that are already started and going forth in the middle of the projects.
Sure.
I mean, why aren't we doing those before the project starts, I guess I'm just a little kind of on the confused size on that side.
Sure. There's a process under Kansas law that allows in each year for the city to abate the improvements that have been constructed during that year. So it's from January 1st of a given year until December 31st of a given year. The work, so to speak, that's been constructed at the site, purchased at the site, the work that's being done, maybe even if it's invoiced after the first of the year, the work for that particular year needs to be included in this particular bond series. And so sometimes it's not the easiest to figure out in advance what the capital spend is going to be for the year. It becomes much clearer this time of year, frankly, because of the different, you can see that there are a variety of different projects that are all being executed out at the site because there are so many different buildings and projects that are the subject of the industrial revenue. So those numbers really come together, hard, solid numbers about November-ish, kind of October-ish. Ron has a better sense of what he's going to spend between now and the end of the year, which is why we typically come at this time of year, because unlike some other applicants that come in front of you, this is kind of hard. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unlike some other applicants that come to you first to create a bucket of money because they're going to finance it through somebody else, Merck is basically cash flowing these improvements, and they get a better sense at the end of the year of how much needs to be included to make sure it's paid for with 2020 proceeds. So that's why you keep hearing about it this time of year as opposed to off the front end like some others. Does that make sense?
Yes, that answers my question greatly.
Sure.
The other question I had was the land purchase. Is that land purchase that, and I understand that land purchase can be used for this, but is that land that is going to have future development on it? Is it a part of what you already have? And I don't know, you can answer or not answer about that. Is it part of the development or is it just abating for the purchase of some land out there, that's gonna
Well,
sit there?
it's being added to the campus. It's essentially the land between the road and the interstate, if I understand correctly. It's zoned M1, so the zoning is appropriate for us to continue to develop. And the idea is there are not very many opportunities for land to come along. It's just adjacent to the facility. So it's not just buffer, but it's the opportunity to then further construct more improvements on the site in a distance that makes sense, right? There's only so much land right now that we can build on. So the short answer to your question is future development, but whether that's currently buffer until we can plan and decide what to do with it, that's kind of a whole different process internally. I hope I did that kind of nice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. We just start, in my mind, I just hope that something happens with that on the land instead of it, just sitting there, but it doesn't. It's been sitting there now. We did a lot to develop it, to get it developed. We put a lot of money into getting it developed in hopes and, I think it was kind of a surprise for me that, it just became a part of this. And a part of your, not necessarily a surprise that it became a part of your campus, but just hoping that something is done with it. So
Well,
that our investment in the roads and everything going through there into it pay off for us in the long run, that it was worth doing that by having something happen there.
sure, that makes a lot of sense.
So,
And the idea is to continue to make this site one that is best suited for future investment by Mark amongst all of its other sites, right? Or at least competitive for that investment. And so this does, I think, move us further down that path, right? To staying competitive.
that's good. All right, thank you for answering this.
Sure.
That's all I have.
Okay, any other questions from council? Okay, someone want to make a motion then to,
Actually, I have a question
Certainly, go
for
ahead.
among us then. So back to this amount in the report, Patrick, in your report, it mentions $25 million for manufacturing expansion, $4 million for land, and then $1 million for building. That tallies up to $3 million, and then or $30 million. But in 3 other places in the report, it uses $33 million.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a question for you?
Well, I might be able to help along those lines, and Patrick, I don't need to take it, but at
Yeah,
the time
no.
the application came in, we didn't have a good sense of what the top end number was going to be. So maybe the best way to say it is that the application we overlap. As the numbers became more final, it looked as though 31 was more appropriate between now and the end of the year to cover off the costs. Does that sound
So do one of the other, does the 25, the 4, or the 1 need to be adjusted so they actually all total up to 31?
I don't think.
Or does it
in the-
matter?
that's only in the.
In the resolution.
The resolution has
resolution
the
just
amount,
has it.
right.
I know, but will there be confusion if somebody looks back at the history and the report numbers don't all add up and things don't match? That's my only thought.
So those numbers, Ron provided to me, I think on Friday afternoon. So Ron, given those numbers, where is the discrepancy in the 2 million? Does that,
Well, we'll be under 31 million. The point is we started construction on 2 new structures on our farm on 87th Street. One is a new administration building, locker room facility. Another is a utilities building. And we hope to be further along with those than what we are. Ideally, we would have been closed in before winter. And right now, we're still pouring basement walls and doing concrete work. So that's kind of where the shift has come from where we thought we'd be to 33 million, and we're just not as far along in that construction as we took.
so it has to do with the 2 buildings listed here that.
Right. We're just getting them out of the ground right now, so.
I'm just looking for consistency between the
Well, so
report
then it
that
would
somebody
be
may refer to later.
26, 4, and 1.
And the number would be 31 million.
That's right.
So we should make that 26, 4, and 1 on the archive copy of the report then. So that's to 31. Okay. What else?
Mayor, if I can just note too, I just wanted to be clear, primarily in response to Councilwoman Murdoch's questions. You'll recall, it seems like maybe it was 3 years ago, you passed 2 resolutions. I addressed this in my memo, but one was for $50 million, and that was for a specific project. And you did, in fact, adopt another resolution, but it simply was to indicate that you as a city council would view future applications favorably, but that's not binding on you, and per statute, you need to treat this application individually on its own merit based on the cost benefit analysis. So I just wanted to note that for the record.
I guess that's kind of part of my kind of reasoning for trying to understand why we do it after things are done, because if there was a changeover on council, it's not binding to that. And I'm not saying it on our part, but more on their part, that it seems to me that why wouldn't you not do it before and after? I understand now why you do it after, and we are, you know, this council here is committed to it, but if there was a change in council, we're not bound to that, correct?
Right, that's correct.
And so
I
that
know,
was, I mean, it wasn't really just a,
and I know Mike might want to speak to this, but we've struggled too at the staff level based on the, our policy on tax abatements is a but-for analysis that
right.
You have to show that you won't be doing the project without the tax abatement. And as you point out,
that's not
doesn't
part of
really
it.
jive when you've already made the expenditure.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, just because they are seeking reimbursement after they've done it doesn't mean they would have initiated had they not had the idea that the reimbursement would be coming at the end.
But then,
Yeah,
but then, I mean, one of the benefits of an IRB is the waiving of sales tax on construction supplies, but if all the construction supplies have already been purchased, they wouldn't have been tax exempt at that point. Correct?
if I may, there's, so if we all reel back to 2016, there were a series of projects that we have proposed and we're constrained by Kansas law, just like you are. This has been an ongoing conversation about what the reliance is and all that other stuff, but for tonight's purpose, we have been executing on a plan of about $100 million worth of investment that we shared with the state and also with the city at the time. And part of the encouragement to Merck was to communicate back upstream that if they build here, the city has shown its intent, let's put it that way, let's just leave it at that, to encourage that with a 75% abatement on up to $175 million worth of bonds. And it's up to, we get it. Separately, the state of Kansas has a high performance incentive program that affords sales tax relief off the front end. It assures it, separate and apart from the bonds. Some other businesses may not have that opportunity, and so they have a different way to get those sales taxes abated, and that's through a transaction like this. So there's a couple ways to get the sales tax abatement, and we're going a different route for that, but it comes with the bonds as well. But that's how we position that to make sure that there's no gap there in terms of building. But it's really important for this council, and I think for us, that the 75% abatement is something we can communicate upstream, because it makes this site a better site than some others for the kind of capital investment that's happening. And we're really excited about it, and we hope you are too.
Yeah, and I think when we look at this project, even where it's looked at the end, this is a project we already know we're getting. This isn't one that's contingent. I mean, Merck is already moving forward. So it's really the best of both worlds. We have a better feel for what the economic opportunity is because they're already underway. And I think the cost benefit analysis plays out that, this is a really, really good deal. I would almost view it as an economic development win, if you will, that Merck is a good partner in our community, continues to invest this kind of capital because we can see the city, the school district, the county, and everybody's going to benefit during the period of the abatement. So I view it as a economic development success that, that we can look for, that we can appreciate and acknowledge. So I guess I'd be willing to make a motion with the resolution number.
1039.
Unless there's any other questions or comments, I don't want to preempt any. Is there anybody online that I don't want to preempt?
Danny or Kevin, do you have any questions or comments that we haven't worked in yet?
I'm good. I'm good.
No, Mayor, I'm good.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 1039, determining the intent of the city of DeSoto, Kansas to issue its industrial revenue bonds in the aggregate amount not to exceed $31 million to finance the cost of acquiring, constructing, and equipping a commercial project for the benefit of Intervet Inc. or its successors and assigns.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Question? Not roll call, please.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Montemichael.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carried.
Thank you, Ron, Rudy, and I'm sorry, I've already forgotten your name.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We need to do one more.
Okay. Oh,
The ordinance.
yeah, let's do the ordinance number.
That is ordinance number 2503.
I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 2503, authorizing the issuance by the city of DeSoto, Kansas of not to exceed $31 million aggregate principal amount of taxable industrial revenue bonds, Intervet Inc. Project Series 2020, to provide funds to acquire, construct, and equip a commercial project for Intervet Inc. and
I'll
authorizing
second that.
and approving certain documents and actions in connection with the issuance of said bonds.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Montemichael.
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Okay.
Motion carried.
All right. Now I
Happy
can.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Kevin. If you want to, you're welcome to stay online if you wish.
Take care.
You can go to Thursday night football, whatever you. See you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
We will go on then. We'll go back to item A, consider resolution 1030 on structure. And now I feel bad because now I made Steve wait long.
Steve learned a lot in the last 15 minutes.
So forgive me, Steve. We had an expensive lawyer here. Go ahead. 8225 Delaware Street.
Yeah, Patrick, I'll let you introduce.
Sure, just council, as you recall, a couple meetings ago, you held a hearing on whether the property, the structure at 8225 Delaware is unsafe and dangerous. You adopted a resolution indicating that it was unsafe and dangerous and gave instruction on giving a period of 30 days for the structure to be either demolished or made safe and secure. Steve did inspect the property, has indicated that he saw no evidence that any repairs or anything's being done with the property different than at the time you made the finding of it being unsafe and dangerous. So now we're at the point of of deciding what to do, given that that 30 days ran without the commencement of any repairs or removal of the structure. So that's why I wanted Steve to be here. I do want to note that this afternoon, Erica received a call from Ms. Gardner indicating that she was wanting to come to the meeting. And then I think she then said she might participate at the library. But of course, at this point, the analysis of whether the property is unsafe and dangerous, that time is sort of ran. So now we're just at the point of deciding what to do about it. I think she indicated that she's in the process of selling the property. So don't know a whole lot about that, but in any event.
No, I don't see anybody on that.
The MG.
That's Matt Goff.
Oh, yeah,
representing Height.
Yeah, he's for the next.
I'm like, oh, maybe she
Yeah, that's, yeah.
did she get on?
As I indicated in the memo, it's really your discretion what you want to do. Clearly, the statutes give you the authority to remove the structure if that's what you deem is appropriate, or anything short of that. As we've indicated on prior meetings, it's very, very unlikely that the city would ever get paid back for any expenditures at that property, just given the liens that are already on the property and the delinquent property taxes. So I think anything you do, we probably need to assume that that's just going to be a city expense without any reimbursement.
Okay. Questions from council?
Steve, does it appear that she's living there now? Or is it vacant?
No, I can't tell it's any change. The neighbors, of course, had indicated she was there, but I cannot confirm
We
it.
can't tell.
So she indicated that she may be trying to sell it, but is it hers to sell?
No.
Yeah.
Not according to the Johnson County Land Director.
Yeah, so, I mean, that doesn't say or mean much at that point.
Nope.
So it's up to us as to what action do if we choose to, we would direct Steve to go out and get bids for a demolition contract or bids for a repair? No? That's probably not in the cards, so.
So the motion tonight would be to secure the bids.
Well, the resolution reads that it would secure the bids and proceed with the action.
It could be, if those bids are above my spending authority, and I suspect they will be, I would have to bring them back.
That was part of my question was,
I guess either way.
I mean,
Either way, you're gonna see it
yeah, we're
again.
gonna have to see it again if it's
Yeah.
over a certain amount.
Yeah.
Be able to proceed with it. So,
And it certainly will be. There's no way it'll get done for less than $5,000.
so would the motion be better to read securing the bids and not say proceeding at this point, considering the bids are most likely over your spending level? It's gonna be back for another action anyway,
Yeah, I think.
or does it matter?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to see the bids, then, but I think you could also just authorize, spending authority up to a certain amount on those bids, or have Mike come back. But
Do we have a clue what price range we think the bids would be in?
14 to 15,000.
Okay.
Rob, if I can ask a question related to that, and, it allows for salvage. Do they typically get any kind of salvage out of a structure like that?
No.
Well, I don't know that there's any specific, I mean, I think we can put it out to bid if it goes, either, I would say if it goes over or under. It sounds like there's some interest in seeing the bids before we proceed with the demolition.
Yeah, I mean, it'd give us one more decision opportunity.
Right.
Rather than just.
Right,
Yeah.
so I think the ordinance will be fine as written, but just bring the bids back before we turn the contractor loose to demolish the building, I think. kind of what I heard.
And Patrick, the court still hasn't ruled on the eviction or?
Right, their answer deadline will run on the 24th of November. So it would be after that point that I would apply for a default judgment. But right now, we can't do that until that time runs. They have, both parties had 21 days to respond. So we need to let that time run before we get an order from the court.
So do we think we'd have bids by first meeting in December?
Good. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we need a motion then to get bids, or is that just something we think direct staff to do?
Well, I think the resolution,
Yeah, I think we would adopt the resolution.
Oh,
and
you
it
want
would-
the
it would start this
resolution adopted
process.
Now?
Yeah.
So just adopt.
Adopt the resolution, but with the caveat of asking the staff to bring the bids back to council.
So adopt it as written with
that
bids to be approved.
Yeah.
Since it is a resolution, I can modify, unlike an ordinance, I can modify it to track what you're, the reference, and it'll be brought back. The bids will be taken up by the council.
We just want one more decision point before the building's demolished.
So I'll make a motion that we direct staff to secure bids and proceed with the removal of the structure at 8825 Delaware. In the resolution number 1038 is approved with the bids being approved, brought back to be approved by council.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion of the motion? Not roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Monaco.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Okay. Item B, consider proposal for lighting on B field at North Park.
yeah, council before, thanks, Steve. Yes, have a good dinner. No, yeah. Before Jay starts though, just want to make you aware, I don't think it's in Jay's report. This is a 2021 CIP project. There's $60,000 in the current CIP to do lighting on B field next year. Jay wanted to get a jump on getting the contractor on board and getting materials, because in a normal year for, let's assume COVID just goes away altogether, those practices start kind of early in the year, and it's tough to get them bid and scheduled and get those lights in available. And so it's kind of like the dump truck last week. We want authorization now. We won't spend anything until after the first of the year. So that's kind of what we're seeing now. So go ahead, Jay.
Silence that mic. That was your mic.
No, I don't know who it was.
No, it was that mic, it's podium mic.
It's the podium mic?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll bet
You
those are
can
switched.
control the podium mic?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
can
I'll
turn
bet
it
those
on
are switched.
or on.
Yeah, just move the top to the bottom, yeah.
That's better. There we go.
All right, here we go. All right, council, as Mike has kind of outlined for you, this project is for relighting Miller Park B field, and like Mike said, we are trying to take advantage of being able to secure this contract in 2020 so that the project can start at the beginning of 2021. One thing we also is that we will be saving roughly 3 to 4% on a typical markup year if we were to wait till 2021 in terms of the minimum on materials. So granted, yes, it is a big number, but there's some savings in doing it versus wait till January, February. As most of you, I think, would recall, in 2016, we entered into an agreement with Musco to replace the lighting on A field at Miller Park.
That project was $141,900. Basically, it was lighting for that entire field, two security lights located adjacent to the field, as well as all the electrical boxes and connections and everything necessary, not only for A field, but for B field as well. So we were trying to think ahead a little bit on getting a lot of that already set up. Looking for a cost savings of not doing partial here and partial there, and being on site. So this project here will take care of all the lighting on B field itself, as well as there are two light poles would be just west of that parking lot by B field that we want to add security lighting there as well. And this, as you can see in the memo, this can all be, we use Control Link, which I can turn lights on and off from my phone anytime. Coaches have a phone number to call that they can call and get them turned off and on. I am in charge of who gets to do what when. We give them the ability to do that. So there will be a cost savings on electricity, much better light level. And I think as I also mentioned in here, we've been having trouble the past couple of years with the lights on B field in terms of still trying to trace it. Doug's looked at it, Nate's looked at it. We've had a contractor down there to look at it. Something underground going on that's really infrequent. Sometimes the banks of lights on the third base side won't want to come on. And then the next day they will want to come on, and then 2 weeks later they won't. So we've been down on that for a couple of years now. Luckily not at that time. It was a game, it was a practice where they still could. But, and I think what else I don't need to tell you, but I think that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Questions for Jay on the lighting project?
Yep, I'm just curious, Jay, did you look at LED field lights?
We did. And that was you can't see me smiling under my mask. There was quite the discussion amongst Justin and I, as well as the Musco rep. Initially, yes, we were going to go that way. Cost is more, longer warranty, obviously more efficient. Then the thought came into my mind of, okay, we have HIDs on A field. We put LEDs on B field. Granted, you're going to have a little bit different look, probably not that big a deal, but more of the perception of, well, I don't want to get to play on B field with the LEDs. I got to play on A field with the HIDs, not the terminology, but basically we decided to stay with HIDs just for consistency between the two fields in terms of the look. But yeah, there were some long discussions over that.
But being steel pole and everything now, this is probably a 30-year piece of infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so it, is the life cycle cost of operation with energy costs figured in, for a long-term piece of infrastructure like this, is it worth it? Because when will you have to replace the other field lights?
It's a 30-year warranty on that. No, 25, sorry. So yeah, we're looking at, they do everything for 25 years.
So it's a matter of the consistency of the look and the light and the.
Yeah, they come in, if we have any issues with poles, lights, breakers, any of their Musco equipment, they come in and replace it and they'll charge for that warranty time frame. But I didn't do, as far as you're talking about in terms of, I think we were going with the cost analysis of how much more LED is than HID and savings, and I didn't get that far with it.
We did do that. Didn't we do that when we looked at A field though? I remember we had a long discussion about LEDs.
We did. We talked about both at the time. And at the time,
it was a little different. That's 2016, is that what you said?
Yeah.
At the time, the recommendation from Musco was that, from our rep, was that he felt it was premature for us to put up LED LEDs because he didn't feel comfortable that they had gotten it right yet.
Yeah, and 4 years ago, that's probably right. But now you're pretty much seeing LED,
Right,
all the
everywhere.
sports fields are getting LED lights on them.
So that was the reason for the first time going with the HIDs.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, we've had multiple discussions, and what we came up with was part of it due to cost without that cost analysis, but the upfront cost, and then also just the consistency of the lights.
Okay, well, I appreciate you gave it consideration.
Between the two
What type of
fields.
upfront cost difference was there? You remember?
I don't have that with me. I want to say, what made me do this? I didn't bring that.
Was it like double or?
No.
No, if I had to guess on a $70,000,
20?
I was gonna say 50.
I think it was about 20,000 bucks, roughly. I mean, I can definitely get that.
Because it's really just the head.
Yeah. I didn't think it'd be double, but.
Nah, yeah.
Just kind of
Yeah.
throwing out that a ballpark idea. is all I'm-
Yeah, roughly, yeah, like Kevin said, it's just, it's the top that's changing, everything else they're doing is the same.
I think in 2016, we had the discussion if we went HID on A field, because that was the thought. Like this is gonna limit, that means we're gonna be probably committed to relighting B field with HIDs if we do them on A field.
Hmm.
I think we had that, at least as the park board, or I have that in my mind, that was
I think that was part of.
our discussion then, was like, well, we're gonna be pinned to this technology for our next lighting as well.
Yeah.
So that the two are uniform in equipment, so that the lights are the same,
Yeah,
the
I got
maintenance
it.
is the same.
I understand.
You know,
I'm good.
On this control feature, Jay, will that be able to control the shelter house down there lights too, and the lights on the lights on the tennis courts?
No, this will only control the Musco supplied lighting. You know, I'm not saying that they couldn't hook something up separate from that to control that other lighting, but right now, the plan we have is that it would just do, and right now, the Musco system, the way we have it set up right now, I can control A field and B field right now, even though we don't have Musco on B field. They just aren't subject to any issues that we could come up, we have to take care of it. Once they put their equipment in, then it's subject to the warranty, and we have to take care of it. But Danny, to your question, that wasn't in the plan.
not part of this bid.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Any questions from you, Kevin, Michael, or sorry, Ritter?
No, sir, I'm good.
I'll make a motion, we accept the bid proposal from Musco Sports Lighting in the amount of $78,800 for lighting upgrades on Miller Park B fields.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, item C, receive presentation on Riverfest stage cover.
Yes, council, Doug Pickert is online. I briefly showed the final renderings to you, I think at the end of the last council meeting. Doug's here tonight. I think he wants to step through these concepts with you and talk a little bit about costs. And then once he's done doing that, I do want to have a brief discussion about sponsorship campaign and what sort of efforts we want to engage with that. So I'd like to turn it over to Doug now. To talk about the concept.
All right, thank you, Mike. Thank you, council. I just do want to spend a couple minutes to kind of quickly recap sort of how we got here, but try to do that very, very briefly. As you recall, the very early studies that we were doing were just trying to figure out how to get the shade on that stage, and one of the basic elements of that was to make sure that we had a essentially a low eave line on the west-northwest side. So the earlier concepts that you were, if you recall, looking at were more of a standard hip roof design. But I pointed out the last time I presented that really does present some problems for us in terms of acoustics, even though it works well from a shade standpoint. It was not ideal acoustically, so I had mentioned that I showed a few images of some monoslope type solutions that are more standard for amphitheater type areas, but the problem with those was they really didn't have any way to provide that shade that we need coming from the the low sun angle on the south, on the west and northwest. So what I developed was this concept that you see that has that more acoustically beneficial monoslope toward the seating area, but also maintains a low eave line on that sun side that we're trying to deal with, to give us an opportunity to still provide that shade. And so what the solution is showing is that that facade essentially on that side, which starts at 10 feet and goes up, and just a quick comments about, this is still a 50 by 50 roof line in plan view. The leading edge of the roof is about 18 feet high. The back edge is around 10, the way this is conceived. And so that front facade, there's some space to be able to provide. My concept, and this concept is showing using a welded wire mesh or something of that nature to create enough density to provide some shade. It won't be perfect solid shade, of course, but some shade from that side, but also to let the sound go through so we don't really kind of destroy the acoustical quality of what we're trying to do here. So that's where this concept derived from, kind of what I'm trying to accomplish with this. And you can see that the columns on the front are supported by some footings that will be above grade so that we can create essentially a level setting plane for that structure as a whole. In this view now that you're seeing on the side, there would still be those mesh panels on the side, because there will be sun coming from those angles as well, depending on the time of day. I will say that even without the mesh panels on here, the first half of the day and really up to about 5:30, 6 o'clock, worst case, there will be good shade on this. The real challenge here is what to do about that 6 to 8:30 time frame. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. So this rendering is kind of capturing the basics of it and kind of how the structure is conceived to be something that's going to accomplish what we need to do. And what I'm proposing here is a tongue and groove wood deck structure with a standing seam metal roof. Obviously, it's all painted steel for longevity and durability, those types of things. And it obviously straddles over the existing 40-foot diameter stage that we have. So that's the scheme of it, kind of the idea behind that. And then the last image here shows the obvious concept, but I think it works quite well. That front panel becomes a good place, obviously, to put banners, sponsor panels, and to provide that. Now, also clearly, especially for the concerts, which is really the key shade element, is by having banners up there, which would be easy to hang on a mesh, you're really emphasizing the shade value of that. You won't have to have sort of the filtered light. It would be a solid screen. I'll point out too that I think the option remains for not a lot of cost, that on the back side of that mesh panel we could still look at adding a sunscreen product on the back side that would be supported well by the mesh if we wanted to make that panel more shade, provide a denser shade without still impacting sound passing through that, so that we don't lose the acoustical quality. So Any questions about any of that before I kind of move on? The design notes, the next page, I really have touched on most of that, so I won't dwell back through all of that at this point. But any questions about how the structure is conceived or why or any of that?
Questions? Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, thank you. And then on the cost part of this, I did update the cost to include, some of the site work, the structure itself, the footings, and I kind of kept the whole package here, including the tree plantings, which I know those 6 large trees to the northwest are also included in here. So now I need to point out, unfortunately, kind of have to give a little bad news about this cost estimate because I got some late information, and I'll take fault for that, but I thought I had crossed my T's and dotted my I's on the initial numbers that I gave you, but I had one quote from one supplier and I was chasing 3. I just got the last 2 today. And the initial quote that I had kind of worked from, thought I was clear to them that it needed to include an installation of that structure, and that was not the case. So I apologize that this is wrong. So that line item for the structure itself installed is shown like in a max of 105. Realistically, is going to need to be about 145. And I apologize for that, not having that correct on here, but I guess it's better to catch that now. The other 2 manufacturer suppliers that I finally got them to get me some information today, their numbers confirmed that that 145 would be a more proper estimate number than the 105. So not good news, but that's the reality of it. I do want to point out too that I did have an estimate down below for final design, bid, docs, CA of $12,000. That was initially based on thinking that since it was a custom structure and I wanted to make sure that we could detail this thing the way we wanted, that I might need to get a structural engineer involved to help prepare the documents and the member sizing. But having worked through some of this with 3 manufacturers, I don't really think I need to do that. We can lean on the in-house engineering for them to do their stamped structural engineering drawings, shop drawings. So that number really can be cut in half in terms of what it's going to take to prepare any bid documents. And instead of 12,000, I think 6,000 is a much more realistic number for that. So it doesn't offset the error above, but that's kind of where we're at. And any questions about any of that or any comments, certainly happy to share and discuss.
All right, questions for Doug? So the bottom line is well, I guess the range we're looking at is somewhere from, well, the trees would come out of there, right? So we're looking at, what are the updated numbers then on the bottom then from the low to high on that now that we would be looking at?
Well, that would be, you can basically just take you can take $7,200 off of those. Well, I'm sorry. You got to add essentially 40,000 to both of those and then subtract what you've already approved for the trees if you want to take that out, plus another 6. So
8,000 on the high end then, right?
Yeah, correct. So I think that high end number is going to be about 180 in that range.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 121 to 184.50, 500.
Kevin, any thoughts? You good?
I like the structure, and so I think we need to look at a fundraising campaign, and I hope one of our large businesses in the DeSoto area would like to brand it accordingly.
Said I let him go too soon.
Where's a great opportunity? I think it'd be a good chance for the mayor to go meet him. I like it.
Yeah, I like your new design, Doug. Looks good.
Okay, thank you.
I don't like the price tag as much, but we'll figure out how to
Yep.
pay.
Understood. I didn't either.
Okay, well,
So I have one idea that I was just going to present on this. Is it possible to double use this as a shelter also and put some picnic tables on it, and maybe one of the grills in the ground over by it that could be used
Yeah.
that way?
Yeah,
Does that mean-
Jay, you want to answer that? That's been harping on me about that all year.
I mean, if we're going to do it.
Yeah, one thing we actually talked with, at the last park board meeting, we were going through the
The bond referendum.
bond referendum, I'm going to say CIP, the bond referendum, and the discussion came up about, there's a shelter house on that list that was in the bond referendum. And we've told them about this project and, you know, kind of how it's been going along. The concept of removing that from the list and using this to double as a shelter. So, yeah, we would have to, you know, take out the big number of the shelter, but we're gonna have to put some in for the idea of some picnic tables, probably some tractor receptacles set in nice spots. Didn't think about the grill, but that's probably a good idea as well.
The biggest one was a sidewalk kind of from the parking lot up.
The other thing we talked about too, was getting a sidewalk path from the restroom, the new restroom, to connect into that, stage slab. For ADA accessibility and also people dragging coolers and whatever it may be. So from where you park there, typically by the bathroom, you get on that concrete, you never walk all the way, paved surface all the way to the shelter house / band shell.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So in terms of a fundraising campaign, my impression has been that this is going to be kind of a more personal sort of, we're going to talk to the big companies and big corporate citizens around. This isn't going to be kind of a public celebration.
I didn't think we put a thermometer out front in a jar by Lana's desk.
I didn't envision that. I think this is more of a white collar sort of an effort. And so, you know, if that's the case, then I think in-house, Whitney can put together some material with Doug's help, you know, about, you know, the renderings and the costs. And
Yeah, just like we need a slick marketing brochure to take to potential investors.
Yeah, I think I can have Whitney, Whitney's great at stuff like that. So we can have.
Is there any problem with additional power to get to this also?
No, we've got a lot of power right there by the stage. A big power cabinet is right, would be just off the corner of one of those posts there. So power's pretty well set up. Now, we're going to have to extend power, you know, to the structure and probably have some outlets within it if we're going to use it as a picnic shelter, because that power box typically is locked up unless we're having an event. So yeah, we'll have to account for that, Danny.
Okay, thank you.
Along those lines, Mayor, I assume those are visits you would be making?
I would accept any assistance from anyone.
Certainly, connections, yeah, contacts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great.
Did you get my memo last week, Mayor?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I'll send it again then. Okay.
Okay. I don't recall, Danny. So all right. So any action from us tonight on this?
No action.
A question, then a follow-up question. Yeah. The trees we bid, are they installed yet or?
No, those are, Jay, you had a chance to get over there and pick them out? Those probably be in the spring. Probably in the spring, but yeah, pretty happy with those bids. The other follow-on question is for Doug's work, because the next step for him would be plans and specs. Do we want to pause that or proceed with that? Because I would worry if we pause too long that we won't have this done before. Hopefully next year we have concerts. So I would suggest that we move forward with that.
I don't know that we'll, I mean, I guess I don't know that we, are you saying like in June of 2021 that it might be ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the big question would that be, if we don't get the sponsorship money to pay for this, are we willing to use
Yeah,
our money
well,
to
you
do
know,
it? Because,
we'll be-
if
we'll be-
we're gonna be moving forward on it, we're moving forward on it.
yeah, I mean, we could move forward on the design and stuff and have that on the shelf without spending the big.
Yeah, I don't have a problem moving with the design. I just, I would be reluctant to bid it until I was.
So we're down the road with an idea what we're.
A better idea of the
How much are we
finances.
looking at design cost at this point?
There's 6,000, I think, is right, is that what actually?
That's about right, Doug, wasn't that for the next phase there?
That is correct. Yes.
So I would say let's proceed.
Yeah, I would,
with the
yeah,
recommendation.
carry on and with the hopes that,
Where it's all planned and ready to go if and when.
Right.
we hit it good in the spring, late winter and.
Right.
Doug, what kind of time frame do you think it would be once the design is done as far as the manufacturing of something like this?
Oh, I think once it's bid and awarded, the manufacturing delivery is probably in the neighborhood of a 6 to 8 week process.
That's before COVID, right? So we're still in a COVID world. That might not be the case.
Well,
Sitting around waiting to get put up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And then the other side of this, as we always do in January, February, we're gonna be updating that CIP, so. We have more for Musco lights we gotta pay for and this, so we'll be having these discussions about that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's the direction we needed for tonight.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Appreciate your work.
very welcome.
All right. Item D, consider ordinance removing land from Hike TIF.
Yes, council. This is actually a housekeeping item. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like Kevin's still hanging with us.
Kevin had to stick around anyway.
Yeah, he did. I'll let him explain his memo then to you if you want to do that, Kevin. Thanks.
Sure thing, and good evening, good to see everybody again. Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell. As Mike said, this is really a housekeeping item, and the brief history listed there, if you recall, the Commerce Drive redevelopment TIF district was created several years ago for installation of infrastructure, streets and other infrastructure to serve the district. Subsequently, an application was received for the K10 Place 2 apartment project, and a plat was recorded, I believe, in 2019. And part of that plat of the lot where the multifamily project's going has a small overlap into this TIF district that's ongoing and will be in place for the next 18 years, I believe. And so it's quite simply the statute for IRBs does not allow abatement of property taxes within a TIF district. And so the statute provides that you can remove land from a TIF district by passage of an ordinance. And so the action before you tonight is an ordinance removing that crosshatched strip of land there that is currently in the TIF district in order to remove it and allow for issuance of the industrial revenue bonds for property tax abatement for the apartment project, which I believe is anticipated early in 2021 as construction continues at that site. So again, just a minor housekeeping item, and that's really the main points of the issue, and obviously happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, I just have a question, and I don't want to sound, Kevin, I don't want to sound like critical or anything. It's housekeeping, but was it also a little bit of an oversight at the time? And if so, how would we reconcile these things at the time that we're doing it? Because we probably would have done it at the same time. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say it was an oversight. I think it's more of a matter of timing. And we do have sort of common developers with both the TIF district and the multifamily project. But again, the TIF district preceded the apartment project by at least a year or so. And part of the TIF district was installation of, again, that infrastructure. And I want to say part of the TIF improvements occurred in this strip of land along the right of way. And as you might know, for TIF improvements, the general rule is that those improvements must be incurred within the TIF district. So to provide for installation of those improvements in the right of way, this strip of land really did need to originally be in the TIF district. And then so subsequently, when the apartment project came along, though, it became clear that before the bonds would be issued and the abatement would be effective, that it would need to be removed from that TIF district. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it was in fact completely intentional, part of the strategic workflow of the project.
Right. This the developer for the TIF district provided the map and the application to create the TIF. And the reason for drawing the map this way is that those interior streets and the improvements in that right of way were contemplated at the time. And now that they're completed, we can remove this and provide for that tax abatement on the adjacent lot.
All right.
Okay. What's our ordinance number?
This would be ordinance number 2502.
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2502, removing certain real property from the Hike Commerce Drive redevelopment district and making certain findings pursuant to KSA 12-1770 and amendments thereto.
I'll second the motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions regarding the motion? Not roll call, please.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Okay. Item E, consider final plat for Brook West 3. Brad.
Brad couldn't be
Brad?
with us tonight. He came to my office begging me to present this for him. He owes me a few favors now, so I'll be presenting this. This was really, Mr. Harding came to us. This is would otherwise probably just have been an administrative lot split, but we're creating 3 parcels, so I couldn't do that as part of the lot split. Basically, what you have up on the screen here is the original plat for Brook West Estates. And in that original plat, it created this giant lot number 26 that comes off of the cul-de-sac bulbs and includes all of the property that's down the slope almost to the railroad, goes eastward to the water's edge of the pond, creates this giant lot number 26. That Mr. Harding now wants to break into one residential lot with a tract to the west and a tract to the east. So the final plat is just a replat of that one lot 26 into what you see here, which is they're calling lot 26A, which does include some of that land that's off down on the slope and abuts the lake, but also includes a very buildable building site here along the cul-de-sac. And then it creates a tract B to the west and a tract A to the east that are divided by lot 26. As with the original plat, the original lot did not necessarily have a commitment to remain open space forever. Tracts now on this plat, it is indicated that tracts A and B will be used as permanent open space and are not buildable. So that's a benefit, I think, because literally they're, they aren't buildable. There's no infrastructure really available to those tracts. So that's Mr. Harding. It serves his purpose, and because it creates 3 tracts, he had to replat it. So Planning Commission looked at this last month and recommended unanimous approval. The council's action on it really is limited to acceptance of easements and rights of way. On this, there is only one new easement that's not there already, and it's a pedestrian easement along the south side of Lot 26A. We have an existing water line easement that kind of bisects Lot 26. That's the water line that goes down to the sewer plant. It's been there since 2009. No other new easements or rights of way on this. So,
Okay.
ask you to approve.
Any questions or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve it. Mike, I just want to make sure, get it right. We're really, the action is to approve the final plat. It doesn't need all the language about what is being accepted and what's not,
Right.
correct? So it's just
Approve
to,
the final plat. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for Brookwest Estates 3. As I scroll through here, you can maybe help me, Mike, because I have a plat date. So we, something that, no.
Sorry.
Final plat dated. No, it's not it. Yeah. Just looking for something to indicate this distinct from,
the other ones.
yeah, from the other one.
Brookwest Estates 3 is distinct from Brookwest.
It is distinct. Okay. All right. That concludes my motion.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
second the motion.
All right. That was a long way getting
That was
there.
a long way to get to a pretty simple thing.
Any discussion of the motion? Not roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Council and Mayor. The motion has carried.
Okay. We've already taken care of F and G, so with no executive session, I'm assuming.
That's right.
We're gonna go to advisory reports. Mike, what do you have for us?
Just quickly, I know we've all been keeping up with the recent health orders, COVID-19 health orders from the governor and then also from the county. The county passed a resolution today, essentially authorizing or empowering their codes enforcement to enforce the health orders that they issued last Friday, which essentially mandates masks and tightens up a few things with large gatherings. In the end, doesn't do the mass shutdowns that we saw this spring, but I don't think I need to restate all of those right now. But the enforcement part of it, it really has been the sticking point at the county. The county commission struggled with how they were going to go about enforcing that and settled on the process that essentially puts it as a civil violation and not a criminal violation, and it puts it in the hands of county codes enforcement to field complaints and follow up with any enforcement activities. Subsequent to that, there are drafts, and the intent for the county is to enter into separate agreements within each city, whereby the city will allow the county jurisdiction within its corporate limits for the county code enforcement staff to enforce those orders within city limits. In no discussion and in no way is it postulated that the city code enforcement would be responsible in any way. There are in the draft language that we've seen, there's language about cooperating with investigations and turning over of documents and possibly even city personnel or code enforcement or police in some cases, testifying, but really the burden for enforcement is on the county. The county's resolution they passed today won't be in effect until they can publish it, but I think it's going to be another week or so. In talking with all the other cities, they're not planning, the agreement's still in draft form. It won't even really be ready to present to any council and probably until December for sure. So I'm anticipating we might be able to present that here at the first meeting in December. But again, it's still a draft version. I think versions are out there available. I don't think I don't want to, if you want it, I can give you what I've got, but it's not a finalized version. So keep an eye on that. In terms of how the new orders affect us here internally, of course, City Hall, it doesn't. We still do our regular thing. City Hall's open to the public. We still have a couple of employees who are working remotely. We're still doing masks and distancing and all that. It might impact Jay's ability to do basketball, youth league basketball. He's been working hard to get, something organized with that, and he's taken signups. Concluded that we're going to just have a league that just includes kids from DeSoto, and it'll be a 3-on-3 league. And so he has enough kids and enough age brackets to have enough teams to kind of play some games together. Struggling finding coaches right now. But the new order, with a limit of 50 people gathering, we're worried a little bit about having enough room in our gym to have games in an orderly fashion. So we're still trying to work through that. The jury's kind of still out on whether or not we're actually going to be able to pull that off with the new order. Other than that, I don't think, for us internally anyway, I don't think there's any changes to what we're doing here. So if you have any questions, concerns about that, I'd be happy to talk offline with you.
Anything else?
No, sir. That's it from me. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Patrick?
Nothing for me. Thanks, Brian.
Lana?
No report. Just happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
Thank you. Kevin Ritter, anything for the group tonight?
Well, Mayor, I hate to bring it up again, but the gentleman called me from the 85th Street project and was wondering if there's been any movement or discussion of posting that sign and putting some millings on his street.
You've got that noted, Kevin. I'll follow up with Ron tomorrow on that. We were going to do some cold patching on that and then do the paving stuff next spring. But yeah, the street sign hasn't been something on the radar, so I'll mention that as well.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it on. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Danny, anything for the group tonight?
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you much.
Very good. Thank you. Lori?
I think the only thing is we did cancel our event this Saturday. I guess we didn't. Hopefully that got passed on to the street crew too, that we don't get the blockades and stuff. If not, could you make sure that they know that we're not doing that? That we agreed when the Rotary Club agreed when they got the temporary use permit that if there's any restrictions, we would close that off. So that has happened. Yeah, so that'll be shut down. So, but that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rob? None tonight. Okay. Kevin?
Just a question for Mike. I'm seeing on social media some stuff about water line breaks.
Yeah.
Can you report on that? And are there any concerns about water infrastructure?
Yeah. I should have included in my report. You've had big attaboys to the water department on Friday night about 8 o'clock. A 12-inch main between the water treatment plant and the water tower along 95th Street between 95th and 3rd split apart and just almost instantly drained the tower. Within 15 or 20 minutes, the tower was almost out of water, but they found it. They got it isolated pretty quickly. We never lost enough water pressure to have to issue a boil order, which was good. But yeah, most of the town was really low water pressure for several hours, Friday evening. I think by about midnight we had it. I'm sorry?
Does during the game?
Was it? Yeah, it was. It had been. Yeah. I think by about midnight we had the levels back up, but they worked all night to fix that. And so it's fixed now. And so we were dealing with low pressure complaints. But I think by about Saturday afternoon, they had all been pretty well taken care of. Luckily enough, where that broke, there's a redundant line, an 8-inch line that goes along Lexington that also feeds the town. So we were able to bypass actually feed back to the tower, so we can still fill the tower while we're working on this line. If that break had happened south of 103rd Street, we wouldn't have been so lucky. We would have been out of water. We would have been issuing boil orders, and folks would have just been out of water for 12 hours or so. So we lucked out there.
Was there anything you learned from repairing the line that causes concern about the water main infrastructure?
No, not really. It looked like that line was put in 2000, and maybe it's 2001. So it was a newer line, plastic pipe. It looked like it had been backfilled with some rock, some larger rock that maybe got up against the pipe and caused a split. Didn't look like anything systemic on
Okay.
the rest of the line.
Okay, Mayor, I do have one quick comment. Just a congratulations to the DHS football team. A really good season and a phenomenal final game against Mill Valley.
Yes. Let's go short, darn it. Well, I don't think I have anything tonight. I would echo Lana's happy Thanksgiving to everybody. It'll be a little different one this year, I'm sure, for everybody. With that, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you all.